Hello fellas, just a quick one to show what's on the workbench at the moment. Now the commission, or the first part of the commission's more or less over, I just wanted to get a few of my own 10mm League of Augsburg finished, so I can finally get some battles in. As you know, I've had a Williamite army for a while now. That still needs a couple of extras, as they always do, but more or less that army's complete for what I need it for at the moment. And these are King James's forces. They are a selection of what he'd have in his army, and this is for the war in Ireland for the late 1680s through to 1690s. It's called three names really: League of Augsburg, the 9 Years' War. The problem is with the 9 Years' War, there was another 9 Years' War in the 1500s, and it often gets if you put anything in your search engine for that, you'll probably get the earlier war, and it's also called the War of the Three Kings, between King Louis, King William and King James. So let's have a quick look at these. The figures are all Pendragon. They're 10mm. Let's see if we can get in a bit closer. These are King James's foot guards, some officers, and these will be pikemen. I don't put the pikes on at this time. I prefer to put them on the bases and super glued into the base. It just gives them that bit more strength. So that's the officers. But let's see if we can put them to one side. I mix up the bags, the different poses you can get, just to not have them necessarily fighting always in like platoon firing or anything like that. Some more foot guards. Now they actually wore the same uniform more or less as the British foot guards, or the English foot guards, and that was because when King William came over in the Glorious Revolution, most of the foot guards, like most of the army, were Protestants, and they obviously went over to King William. So King James had to recruit a whole new set of foot guards, which on the whole were Catholic, and they dressed more or less exactly in the same uniform. As I've said before, I try and do very bold highlights and big transitions between the colours, so there's big gaps which you wouldn't normally have on my larger figures. Let's see if we can turn these round. Sorry about a blank space. These have got the apostles hanging off them, for the one-shot powder. You see the little white dabs on their hats. For the Battle of the Boyne particularly, both sides, because they were dressed such alike with reds and greys and whatever, they needed signs for their own men to know who they were, just like later on you'll see in World War II, Germans having armbands tied around them and things like that. Well, the same for these guys. It was white paper and maybe the odd white rag put in for the Jacobites, and green shoots or grass or leaves for the Williamites. So that's me foot guards. There were 2 battalions in the war in Ireland, which is what I'm doing, but at the moment I've just got the one. These aren't finished yet. I should have said those are finished. The other ones have been varnished and that, but I'm just waiting to get a group together before I start basing them. This is Antrim's, Lord Antrim's regiment in French grey. Don't mind the 2 grenadiers on the left there. They're actually for that regiment I've just shown you. As always, I keep forgetting to put blooming grenadiers on the ends of my regiments. So again, they're all the same poses. What I tend to do is cut these would normally be, let's see if I can point, these would normally be having the officers, spittoons, pikes, whatever you want to call them. Like this guy here, what I do is I cut them out. I don't tend to drill them out, I just tend to cleave a bit of metal out with my scalpel, and then I use some of the pikes, and I make those for the poles for the colours. So these are a bit of a work in progress. The grey is where I want it. Again, you'll think, blimey neck, they look a bit rough, but to be honest, when you stand them back on a table, they look decent. So that's Lord Antrims. Now Lord Antrims also, they reckon, was actually a lot, because some of them were recruited from the Highlands on some of his estates over there, and they actually were in Highland dress to begin with, they reckon, or some of, at least half the regiment were. These have been done for around the Battle of the Boyne time, so by then they reckon they were in French greys. The French obviously were bankrolling King James, and they sent over lots and lots of cloth and musket barrels to make the muskets with, you know, things that they didn't have on tap in Ireland, or in the King James's controlled Ireland anyway. As I say, these have got a bit more to go yet, but not far off. Obviously, got to do another highlight. I've got to do as you do two highlights on the faces, and again a mixture of poses. I can't remember what codes they were, but I tend to mix them in. Then we've got a more ragtag unit. This is tawny red orange, which was quite a popular colour with the dyes they were doing in King James's controlled territory. Now these are a complete, they haven't even got a name, these guys. There's some debate now whether they had so many of these ragtag units or if a lot more were actually more uniformed, but I've done the officers in a more brighter red to say, look, we're quality. Even the sergeants tended to be a bit of a higher social status than the drummers. The drummers had quite a high social status in the regiments compared to later on, because they would beat out the parley. You know, if you were asking a fortified building to surrender, you'd send your drummer along and he'd drum out a particular beat to tell the other guys that you wanted a parley with them. And then these guys here are from, I think they're you can use them for like Sedgemoor and that. So they've got the bill hooks and stuff. Again, the colours probably aren't. All I've done is used in a lot of cases. Some of them are converted. I mean, not these guys; these are sculpted already. But as you can see, these ones here, they probably wouldn't have been looking as good as this in these ragtag units. But these are pikemen that I've just painted up as different colours. So that's my regiment of no name at the moment. And then these guys here. Obviously, these have been hand painted with Vallejo primer, surface primer, and that's light ghost grey. Gives you a bit of an idea what they come as. So these ones have are more of the same type of pose. But again, when you mix them in with these guys, they look pretty good. So guys, thanks for stopping by and taking a look. These are my League of Augsburg 10mm army for the 1690 period, War in Ireland, and hopefully next time you see them they'll be based. I think I've got 2 more regiments of foot and 2 of horse and maybe a couple of light guns to say that I can actually have a game, and then I'll build the force up from there. So thanks for stopping by and taking a look, and I'll catch you again on another vid. Cheers.